Namaskar and welcome back. Picture a dark, punishing storm tearing through a small village in Bengal. On the very outskirts of this village, an ill-tempered old woman is having a miserable night. The relentless rain is leaking right through the roof of her tiny hut, and she is furiously shodding her bed around the room just to keep it dry. But she isn't alone. Huddled against the thin outside wall of her hut, seeking shelter from the howling wind, is an apex predator. Shivering in the cold, the tiger overhears the old woman muttering angrily from inside. "There is no escape from this drip-drip. This drip-drip will be the death of me." Look at the text on this page. The tiger doesn't know what a leaky roof is. He assumes drip-drip is an unseen, terrifying monster capable of killing humans. If this creature easily scares a human, it must be incredibly dangerous. That single, misinterpreted phrase sets off a chaotic chain reaction. In a single instant, the jungle's fiercest natural predator is entirely stripped of its courage, replaced completely by blind panic. Meanwhile, completely unaware of the tiger, local potter Bholenath is wandering through the exact same storm. He is soaking wet, highly annoyed, and stumbling blindly through the dark looking for his donkey. He isn't being cautious because he assumes his biggest problem is finding a stubborn pack animal. Through the heavy, driving rain, Bholenath suddenly spots the large, dark shape of an animal huddled against the woman's hut. Frustrated and exhausted, he marches right up, assumes it's his donkey, and angrily grabs the massive beast by the ears. The tiger instantly freezes. Convinced it has just been ambushed by the dreaded drip-drip monster, the apex predator completely submits. It simply allows itself to be verbally abused, violently shoved, and dragged all the way back to Bholenath's house. Bholenath survives an encounter that should have been fatal. Not because he possesses any actual physical bravery, but because his sheer ignorance makes him act with such absolutely terrifying confidence that a fierce wild beast completely surrenders. The storm finally breaks, revealing a bright, calm morning. Bholenath is still fast asleep when his wife steps outside and lets out a blood-curdling scream. Tied to the tree in their front yard, secured with a sturdy rope, is a massive Bengal tiger. Look at the reaction of the villagers here. The screaming wakes the entire neighborhood. The sudden crowd of panicked humans deeply confuses the tiger, who quickly chews through the rope and bolts deep into the jungle. Bholenath wakes up, walks outside, and finally realizes how close he came to dying. But rather than admitting he made a colossal mistake in the dark, his ego takes over. He puffs out his chest and loudly announces to the bewildered crowd that he intentionally hunted, captured, and dragged the beast home bare-handed. This is a classic psychological trap called the halo effect. Because the villagers have shocking physical evidence, a tiger tied to a tree, they instantly discard their previous views of the humble potter. They project an aura of invincibility onto him, elevating him to the status of a local hero, based entirely on a fabrication. Rumors move fast. Within a few months, the wildly exaggerated tale of the bare-handed tiger hunter travels all the way to the royal court, reaching the ears of the regional king. The king is thoroughly impressed. Needing strong military leadership, he calls Bholenath to the palace and immediately promotes the untrained potter to the highest military rank possible, commander-in-chief of the royal army. The celebration doesn't last long. A neighboring state abruptly declares war and marches toward the borders with an invading force of 8,000 heavily armed soldiers. At home, the illusion shatters. Bholenath faces an impossible mathematical reality. A civilian with zero combat training is now solely responsible for stopping an 8,000-man army. He turns to his wife in utter despair and confesses he doesn't even know how to sit on a horse. His lie has successfully trapped him. When you fake absolute competence, you inevitably find yourself placed in a high-stakes environment where real greatness is the only mechanism for survival. Morning arrives, and the king sends over a magnificent, fierce stallion for his new commander. To prevent her terrified husband from simply sliding off the saddle in front of everyone, Bholenath's wife securely ties his legs and torso directly to the horse with heavy ropes. This immediately backfires. The massive stallion hates the feeling of the tight ropes. It rears up, panics, and gallops wildly out of the village, heading straight toward the enemy encampment as Bholenath screams in sheer terror. Desperate to stop, Bholenath spots a large tree with low-hanging branches approaching. He reaches out and grabs a thick branch with both hands, hoping to pull himself off. Instead, the sheer momentum of the warhorse snaps the massive branch clean off the trunk. Bholenath has completely lost control. But consider how this chaotic physics looks to anyone standing a few hundred yards away. It perfectly simulates the violent, aggressive charge of a fearless berserker. Put yourself in the shoes of the enemy army. You are standing in formation, and suddenly you see a wild-eyed man strapped directly to a furious stallion, charging entirely alone, screaming and violently ripping heavy branches out of trees with his bare hands. The psychological collapse is instantaneous. Convinced they are about to be slaughtered by a supernatural warrior who can tear apart forests, all 8,000 soldiers break rank. The entire invading army drops their weapons and flees in terror without drawing a single sword. Bholenath returns home without throwing a single punch. The king throws a massive public ceremony, showering him in wealth and officially cementing his status as an untouchable, legendary defender of the state. A man with no skills accidentally conquered an army. But trace the facts backward, and you realize this sweeping military victory was never built on strategy, strength, or courage. It was built entirely on a grumpy old woman complaining about her leaky roof. Dhanyavad for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.